Okay, time for a new video, and whether you are somebody new to my channel or you are returning to my channel to watch this video, it is greatly appreciated. As always, I'm filming this video in one go, so if I stumble over my words moving forwards, apologies about that. And also, if the quality of this video is fairly poor as well, if there's any lag, anything like that at all, sadly it cannot be helped, and hopefully it is not too much of an issue for you. This is yet another Eurovision related video here on my channel, and today I'm going to be taking a look back at the 2022 edition of the ESC. After all, it has been nearly a year since that competition took place, and I thought it would be a good idea to just reflect on what was before we move into the 2023 competition, which begins in about a fortnight's time. As always, you're very welcome to let me know your thoughts on anything I discuss in today's video by leaving a comment. That would be much appreciated. Likes, shares, all of that good stuff is much appreciated too. Also, I just want to say that the 10 great national final songs of the season video will be coming very soon. I just need to finish off a few more things for that. But that video will surface on my channel within the next week or two. Also, I just want to briefly mention what the schedule is going to be like for the week of this year's contest, because it is going to be ever so slightly different. On the Monday, all being well, I will be filming my preview of semi-final 1 and telling you my prediction for the results. That prediction will have been made in advance, probably about 24 hours in advance, and won't change before the show actually takes place. It won't change at all. On the Tuesday, all being well, I'll be here reacting to the results as they come in on my television. On the Wednesday, I will review semi-final 1, preview semi-final 2, and tell you my prediction for the semi-final 2 results. On the Thursday, I will react on television once again to the results of semi-final 2 as they come in. On the Friday, I will react, or discuss rather, the grand final running order, preview the grand final, as well as reviewing semi-final 2 and telling you my very rough prediction for the grand final results. On the Saturday, there probably won't be a video from me at all, because I will be at the Pier Head in Liverpool among lots of other Eurovision fans as part of the Eurovision Village, and I think it's just going to be too difficult to get any sort of video online that day. I don't think I'm even going to be on the internet at all that day. So, as much as I will try and get some footage and plenty of photos, the chances of any of that going online on the Saturday is pretty slim. On the Sunday, there probably won't be a video from me either, but there will be a complete review of the 2023 contest on my channel a few days after it's all over and the dust has settled. And if there's any sort of vlog footage, I'll have to piece that all together, and hopefully it won't be too bad. I don't even know how much footage I'm going to get, if anything, but if there is some, that will be on my channel as well at some point after the contest has finished. Now, getting into the main point of this video, ladies and gentlemen, 2022. I'm not really going to be talking about the production side of things and the faulty stage and some of the dodgy camera angles and the hosts and all of that business. I'm here to mainly focus on the songs, and I haven't really thought about them too much for a long time, but it has been nearly a year, and it'll be interesting to think about them again and see whether my opinions have drastically changed on any of these tracks, whether that's for the better or for the worse. And of course, you're very welcome to let me know what you think about these songs nearly a year on too. Have any of these tracks grown on you significantly, or are you not really a fan of a song that this time last year you were really enjoying? So I've got the list up here in front of me. Let's go through the songs that didn't qualify first. Semi-final 1 was on May the 10th. And how many countries were involved? 17. So missing out the opening song, Albania. This was Secret by Ronela Hayati. 12th place, 58 points. Coming into last year's contest, this was getting a fair amount of buzz. A lot of people had it ranked fairly highly, I would say. A lot of people thought it was going to qualify. I think I predicted it to go through. The music video, when that was released, not bad, told a story from what I remember about it. But for some reason, on the Eurovision stage in Turin, they went for this sort of quite sexual-looking performance, which didn't fit the song at all, really. And although it didn't bother me, I just, to this day, don't really understand why they went down that route, because clearly it didn't work. The best way to describe this performance, in my opinion, is sloppy. It was not bringing its A game. Ronella was fine, she sounded okay, maybe not brilliant, but she sounded okay enough in my opinion. And she was giving it her all, and she was swinging her hair back and forth, and she had dancers with her, and it was all quite saucy stuff. Visually, I suppose it was alright, but it was just sloppy, and I just didn't understand why they were presenting it in that manner. After the first rehearsal, I think the EBU stepped in, if I remember, and said, you might want to just tone this down a little bit because it's a little bit too saucy for a family show. They did say something like that. And yeah, I mean, it just wasn't really on top form on the night, unfortunately. And as soon as I saw the performance on television, I thought, well, the juries aren't going to like this. It's the opening song, and it's a little bit sloppy. So if we take a look at the split results, Albania were 14th with the juries, but only 12 points. Albania was a qualifier with the public with 46, so not convincing, 12th overall. And have I watched this performance back over the past year? Maybe once or twice. Do I enjoy it? Not really, I have to say, but the song isn't bad. The studio version is pretty tight, but on that Eurovision stage, it was far from fluid. And I saw a few comments online on the evening of the first semi-final, and indeed since, and some people were saying this was robbed, how did this not qualify, why didn't Europe appreciate our queen, etc, etc, and I'm thinking, what were you watching? It was sloppy stuff. It wasn't good enough, and I keep saying it in my videos, you have got to deliver on the night, ladies and gentlemen, because if you don't, it's goodbye. It's as simple as that. Song 2, Latvia, Citizeni, Eat Your Salad, 55 points, 14th place, so just behind Albania. I was quite dismissive of this track the first time I heard it, but I know Latvia. I knew very well that this was the sort of thing that was going to win Supernova, and so it came to be. And likeable guys, seemed pretty up for it in interviews, and they did do a very good performance on the night. Very vibrant, very colourful, very tongue-in-cheek, a little bit on the silly side. And even though a lot of people did want this to qualify in the end, they weren't really close at all. In fact, the juries liked this more than the public. 11th with 39 points from those juries, but 15th with 16 points. That's below Bulgaria, for example, with the public. Why weren't people more on board with this? Was it the running order? Maybe. Or was it simply the fact that it wasn't as good as people were making it out to be? I don't know. I like this song more than I did this time last year, I think it's fair to say. I've watched the performance back a few times. This is no surprise. Chances are I will like every song more when the dust has settled regarding a particular competition. So yeah, Eat Your Salad, it's a fine track, a little bit silly, and it makes me wonder about Latvia this year, because although it's a very different, more serious tune, it's sort of a similar situation where a lot of people are getting on board with the Latvian track. Sudden Lights, a lot of people are really enjoying what they're bringing to the table this year, which is fair enough. I don't mind the song either. But people have actually got to vote for this in big numbers. So we'll see what happens in a few weeks' time. Anyway, last year, Latvia, yeah, not a bad performance, not really that bad a song, just a simple case of people not actually voting for it much on the night, for whatever reason. Song 5, Slovenia. Slovenia had a bit of a long-winded national final set up last year, and this band, LPS, came out on top, and I remember seeing a comment, I think it was on one of my videos, from somebody saying the only reason they were going to Eurovision is because everybody at their high school voted for them, and that's why they won. Now, whether there's any truth to that or not, I don't know. This was disco. They had that big disco ball structure on stage. Finished last with 15 points. Very disappointing. Not a bad track. Quite funky stuff. And although what I'm about to say is very harsh, it really did feel this way. It felt like a sort of high school prom performance. by a group of students. It didn't really feel super polished or super ready for Eurovision, I've got to be honest with you. Did it deserve a few more points than 15? Yes, arguably. If we take a look, last with the public, second last with the juries, nobody was really on board with this one, and in a tough semi-final lineup, this was always likely to miss out. It's as simple as that. Bulgaria, song 7, big disappointment. This was the first song, I believe, released for the 2022 competition. Intelligent music project with intention. 29 points, 16th place. Not a bad performance. Quite standout, I suppose, because it was rock-in style. Lead singer doing a pretty good job as well. But ultimately, this fell very short of Bulgaria's pretty high standards at the contest. And a lot of people thought it was a crushing disappointment, so it never really stood much of a chance. 15th place, 11 points with the juries, and 14th place, 18 points with the public. As expected, I've not really gone back to that song, and whereas, you know, Latvia, Slovenia, I like those songs a little bit more now, for Bulgaria my opinion is pretty much the same. I still think it's pretty damn average. Anyway, next is Croatia. Mia Dimšić with Guilty Pleasure, sort of light Taylor Swift this, which probably explains why I enjoyed it, because Taylor Swift is one of my favourite musicians. This finished 11th, how about that? 75 points. This was relatively unfancied coming into the first semi-final. Not a lot of people had this ranked very highly. Some people found it too saccharine, too sickly sweet, too twee, whatever other word you want to use here. Mia, beautiful woman. She was in that pink dress, if I recall. Bit of choreography on stage, which was a distraction more than anything else. But it was a really difficult song to stage well. How are you going to make a song like this live long in the memory? I don't know. Ultimately, it came up a bit short. If we take a look at the split results, Croatia was a qualifier with the juries, 42 points, and 12th with the public as well. So not a disgrace by any stretch of the imagination. This year we've got something very different from Croatia. But last year, yeah, when I think about the recap in that first semi-final, this didn't stand out much, which is a real shame because it was a breath of fresh air in the lineup. Then we've got Denmark. I loved this. Still like it today. This is Ready, all-female group with The Show. 55 points, 13th place, so pretty much tied with Latvia here. I thought this was very good. The national final performance, very colourful. At Eurovision, very colourful, but also a little bit disappointing because the stage was faulty, so they couldn't quite have it presented in the way they wanted it to look, if you see what I mean. But the energy was there, the drummer was having a great time, the same drummer from the 2012 performance for Denmark, I should say. Great vocals, looked really good, nice energy, took a little while to get going, and then maybe didn't really build up to much at all, but fun stuff. Sadly, this just suffered from a real lack of support. I didn't really see anybody rooting for this in big numbers, and that's probably why Denmark didn't qualify. And if Denmark don't qualify in Liverpool, that's 3 finals in a row in which Denmark have not made the cut. This was 12th with the juries and 13th with the public. Now, Ready, I'm not even sure they're together anymore. No, it says they are, but they've been very quiet on social media for a long time. And they did have a follow-up single, which was pretty good. But I think everything's gone quiet, which is a real shame. Anyway, the last non-qualifier from semi-final 1, Austria. Well, when this song was released, people were going nuts for it, saying that this could be a contender for a top 10 finish in the final. Instead, not even in the final, ladies and gentlemen. This was Lumix featuring Pia Maria with Halo. I wonder if they're still in touch. Something tells me probably not. This finished 15th with 42 points. The issue here was the vocals, Pia Maria's vocals. She came under a lot of fire this time last year. She was at the London pre-party, I think it was. Some people said that she didn't sound very good at all. I know that she was ill, so we can cut her some slack, but at Eurovision she still sounded a little bit wobbly. Yes, she was really young, but ultimately it was a tad disappointing. Visually, it could have been a bit stronger. It was a very dark performance. They didn't really have anything on the backdrop or anything like that. Lots of wide camera angles as well. Lumix was doing his thing behind the booth. I mean, it was energetic, it was lively, it's a catchy number. The juries were never really going to like it, though. If we take a look at the split results, last with the juries and 11th with the public, just a few points behind. Just a few points behind Iceland. I don't really have anything else to say about it. Austria this year, much more likely to do very well indeed. But a song that I've listened to plenty of times in the past year. Moving on to semi-final 2, and this was on May the 12th. Israel first. Michael Ben David with I Am for Israel. Song 2 on the night. 13th place, 61 points. Camp, camp, camp. Everywhere you look. He came under fire for, I think it was trying to grope Mika in the green room during the semi-final 2 voting process, and some of the things he said in interviews as well. I can't really remember, it was a long time ago, but I do remember seeing a lot of comments from people online saying that they weren't really a fan of him or indeed the song he had. What I will say is that he performed it very well in that crisp white outfit, dancers, choreography, really going for it. They had a revamp which didn't really do anything for me, but I have to say I was impressed with the staging and the overall aesthetic of the performance on the night. Have I listened to this song in the past year? Not really. Is it one of my favourites from 2022? No, it is not. Was it something that disappointed me? Not at all. I actually thought he did a really good job. In the end, looking at the split results, 11th with the juries, 13th with the public. And I think over the years we've come to expect pretty good stuff from Israel, I think it's fair to say. This came up short. This wasn't quite at the level. Song 5, Georgia. Georgia just doing whatever the hell they liked again. This was Circus Mircus with Lock Me In. You had the guy with that sort of puppet show on stage and quite steampunk-like outfits. Catchy stuff, very different. Last place, 22 points. Maybe it was just too wacky to really leave much of an impression on the audience. People listening to this for the first time, I don't think that they were going to be massively enthused by it. If we take a look at the split results for this one, we can see that Georgia were 17th with the public and 15th with the jurors. I don't really have much to say about this one. It just was a little bit too out there. And it was risky, and sometimes risks can pay off. But in this instance, it really didn't. Then we have Malta, Emma Muscat. Beautiful woman, big star, and even if she hadn't represented Malta last year, she probably would have done at some point. She didn't win with I Am What I Am, she won with another song. And then this one came along, you know, pretty much a sort of Melfest reject, I think it's fair to say. Not bad. The live performance, I really liked it. It was sweet, it was harmless, you had this golden lighting, you had the piano, she was on top of the piano at one point, she was in this sort of chain link, sort of Gina G type dress. She looked absolutely fabulous, her vocals were pretty good, and it's a fairly uplifting tune, but there wasn't any momentum with this track either. Who was really going to vote for this in big numbers? Nobody. This finished 16th with 47 points. She was 15th with the public and 12th with the juries. Now, usually Malta do well with the juries, but last year it just wasn't to be, and obviously this year there are no juries, so poor old Malta might be screwed. We will soon find out. But yeah, I Am What I Am, I really don't mind it, and I think she's great, and I think she did a pretty good job. San Marino, Song 7. Like Latvia, this came into the contest with a fair amount of buzz behind it. Achille Lauro, big star, been in Sanremo a few times. This was Stripper, written by about 500 people. Unbelievable. This finished 14th with 50 points. He went all out for this. He threw the kitchen sink at the performance. He threw the tumble dryer at the performance. He threw the toaster at the performance. He threw the whole kitchen at the performance. He went big. He had the mechanical bull. Then he was smooching somebody. It was all a bit like Albania, very sexual in style. But this time it sort of worked with this type of song, this sort of dirty rock, almost bluesy type number. Very good song, certainly grew on me, and I can appreciate this type of music and this type of performer. But in the end, not quite enough love went his way. In the split results, 12th with the public, 13th with the jurors. No disgrace whatsoever, a fairly competitive effort, but ultimately coming up short. Then we have Cyprus. Wow, yeah. Bit of a flop, this one. Arguably the flop of the 2022 contest. This was the beautiful Andromachi with Ella, performed in English and Greek, 12th place, 63 points. This was damaged by a shockingly low jury mark. She had that seashell structure on stage. Try saying that after you've had a few drinks. And really, it was just too static. It was very dark, like with Austria. It was a very dark performance. It needed to be a lot more colourful, a lot more vibrant, a lot more imaginative. Ultimately, the song, perfectly fine. The way it was presented, uninspired. They could have done something different here. There could have been some more dancing, more colour, like I said a minute ago. I don't know what they could have done, really. But this ultimately was a bit of a crushing disappointment. The juries had this last, which does surprise me even to this day. Cyprus finished 9th with the public. So, very much a differing opinion there. What a shame, and a rare missed final for Cyprus. Then we have Ireland. Oh boy. Again, another song that had a bit of momentum coming into last year's show. This was Brooke with That's Rich, 47 points, 15th place, pretty much tied with Malta. She was great. The national final performance on the Late Late Show wasn't amazing. She was sort of wearing her pyjamas, but at Eurovision it was completely different. She was in this dress, she had dancers, you had loads of lights, you had pyros, the full works for this performance, and it was a really, really engaging stage show, to be honest with you. Great song. I think it's in my top 10 of last year. Can't quite remember. Really good stuff, and she sounded pretty good on the night as well. Should this have gone through? In my opinion, it deserved more love, but Ireland once again failed to make the cut, as they will do this year as well, I'm sure. 16th with the juries, 11th with the public, so wouldn't have qualified anyway, even if it had been 100% public vote. Still wouldn't have gone through. A real shame, but she did a very, very good job. Then we have North Macedonia. Wow. Andrea with Circles. I feel as though every single Eurovision fan has pretty much forgotten about this one. Give it a few years, some people might not even be able to remember the North Macedonian entry at all from 2022. This was Circles, 76 points, 11th place. Not bad. She didn't really move around much, but we have to say, Andrea was one of the best female singers last year. She really sounded good in all the pre-party performances, in the studio cut as well, and on the night in Turin. She sounded really, really good. The juries loved this. Well, I say loved it. They had her as a qualifier in 10th place. The public down in 16th. So yeah, 11th place overall. Some people thought this was going to finish last of semi-final 2, but ultimately not disgraced whatsoever. I don't really remember too much about the performance, apart from the fact that she sounded pretty good. That's all I've got to say about it. Then we have it was a very safe song. Then we have Montenegro, song 15, Vladana with Breathe, 33 points, 17th place. She had this big, partially lit up sort of saucer thing behind her head. Not really sure about that. She was on the secondary stage. A lovely ballad, but ultimately playing it a bit too safe, which is fine. Safe works sometimes. But this was just lost in the mix. If we take a look, yeah, 17th with the juries, that's low. 14th with the public. Maybe deserved a bit more love, but now, thinking back almost a year on, I am not surprised Montenegro failed to qualify whatsoever. So let's now move into the final, ladies and gentlemen, and I'm going to try and rattle through this. Song 1, well, here's a song that certainly deserved a bit more love. We Are Domi, Lights Off, Czech Republic, 22nd place, 38 crappy points. This deserved so much more. This was a fantastic opener to the show. I should mention I'm not really going to be going through the semi-final results for each of these tracks because we would be here forever. But this did well in the semi-final, and it was a great opener, you know, very, very vibrant. All of the flashing lights, all of the electronic equipment on stage and everything, which I'm sure wasn't even plugged in. But yeah, she sounded pretty good. I know that she had a bit of a sore throat the week of the contest, but I think she sounded perfectly alright to me. And the atmosphere in the arena must have been absolutely incredible. I would have loved to have been there in the arena to see this live. It's a great, great song. It grew on me more and more and more with each passing week. Absolutely one of my favourite songs of last year's contest. And if I was to re-rank the 2022 batch of songs, this may well be in my personal top 10. Absolutely wonderful. They did a song with Lake Malawi last year, I think it was, called High Speed Kissing, which is pretty good if you haven't heard it. If we take a look, the Czech Republic, five shite points from the public. What is that all about? You have to say the running order maybe played a part. If this had been on in the second half, it could have been a different story. But the love dried up for this one. What a shame. 19th with the juries, 22nd overall, 38 points. What a shame. This was decent stuff. We then move on to Romania, and here's another song that really grew on me around the time of last year's contest, and since the Turin show has grown on me slightly more as well. This was Wrsh, WRS, with Chamame, Olami Bebebe. This finished with 65 points in 18th place. Not bad for a song performing second. You had the dancers in those very odd outfits. Well, they weren't really outfits. I mean, their entire chests were exposed. And you had Wrsh himself. Oh, it sounded like Sean Connery a little bit there. There he was, strutting his stuff on stage, looking good and sounding pretty good, waving the handkerchiefs. Everybody was having a good time. And this, arguably, was a lot stronger than the Czech Republic's performance a few minutes before it. Let me know your thoughts on that. Anyway, he was 13th with the public and 21st with the juries. Yeah, as expected, but very nice to see Romania back in the final and not doing too badly. Then we have Portugal, a real change of pace. This was Maro, who's been performing recently. I think she's been in America. I think she's performing in Spain at some point. Maybe she already has. She's great. She's released so many albums. She did a music video with Salvador Sobral as well. This was Saudade Saudade, 207 points, 9th place, well deserved. She was on the B stage, her group of women around her, the camera panning around very slowly, so tender, so soft, very hushed vocals. Gorgeous woman. If the camera angles had been ever so slightly better in some instances, this would have been an absolutely splendid all-round performance. It wasn't quite A+, but it was getting there. This was lovely, lovely stuff, and I'm so glad this wasn't completely shafted in the results. Okay, 15th with the public, but 5th with the jurors, who clearly were feeling a little bit somber with this one and decided to show some love. Absolutely fantastic. Another example of a song that grew on me so much after it won the national final. Song 4, Finland. Always like this, but you have to say maybe they only won because of how famous they are. This was the Rasmus with Jezebel. Jezebel! Lead singer in the yellow coat, holding the balloon at the start, and then all of these balloons on stage as well. Oh man, it could have been presented a bit better. I wasn't a huge fan of the national final performance, and then on the Turin stage I think it could have been a little bit better as well. But anyway, 38 points, 21st place. Disappointing, you have to say, but something tells me Finland will be doing a lot better this year. They certainly know how to party over there. This finished 22nd with the juries and 16th, just behind Portugal, with the public. Yeah, very good song, always liked it, but I have gone off it ever so slightly. Then we have Switzerland. Well, this was Marius Bear with Boys Do Cry. 78 points, 17th place. Nice singer, super simple song, very sweet, maybe a little bit too uninspired. I don't know. Visually, they had this whole thing with shadows, if I recall. Can't quite remember. I haven't really watched this back since last year. If we take a look at the split results, he was last with 0 points from the public, but 12th with the jurors, which is pretty impressive. Very lopsided in the end. To go from having John's Tears, who did so well, to this 0 points from the public. A massive, massive letdown. But this song was never that popular in the first place. You know, sometimes ballads can be absolutely excellent, but this just wasn't connecting with many people at all. And so 0 points wasn't really a surprise, I have to say. And even making the final was a little bit surprising. But there we are. Song 6, France. Oof! Another bit of a flop. Le flop, as they would say in Paris. This was Alvan Anderhez with Fulen, performed in the Breton language. 17 points, 24th place. What happened here? Honestly, what happened here? Because I don't think anybody expected this song to fare so poorly. This very sort of otherworldly, almost cultish-like tune. Very ominous. You had the guy doing his thing, and you had the three women who were sort of walking very slowly and seductively towards the front of the stage. Very chant-like. A very cool song with the green colours and everything. I liked it very much. I still like it now, although maybe I've gone off it ever so slightly. What happened? Second last with the juries, and only 8 points, 19th place with the public. I don't know, man. Was this a case of being one of those songs that really isn't that bad, but then on the night, once you have the entire lineup and you're deciding who to vote for, this is the sort of song you look at and say to yourself, oh, it's good, but it's not good enough for me to vote for it. Maybe that was the case last year with France. I don't know, because this is not a bad track, and it wasn't poorly staged, in my opinion. But it's almost as if people just instantly forgot about it on the night, which isn't great. Then we have Norway. I was completely dismissive of this one the first time I heard it, and I think it was because it was, you know, two guys in wolf masks singing about bananas. But I grew to appreciate it. The novelty wore off very quickly. I think it wore off for a lot of people very quickly, to be honest with you. They dragged this whole gimmick out for about a year. I don't know. Give That Wolf a Banana finished in 10th place with 182 points. I have to say the performance was good in Turin. It was a pretty good performance at MGP last year as well. Overall, a job well done. And it was always likely to do fairly well with the public, more so than the juries. Taking a look here, the juries had Subwoofer in 17th place. The public had Norway in 7th. And something tells me Alessandra will do quite a bit better than that this year. We shall see. But yeah, Subwoofer, you know, an injection of fun into the grand final. Then we have Armenia, the breakout hit of last year. This was Rosalind with Snap. Has she released any other music? I think she has, but I haven't heard it. She's going on tour. How many songs does she have? I say that as nicely as I can. How many songs does this woman have in her back catalogue? Because Snap is by far her best known tune. This was staged in a pretty imaginative manner, the sort of rotating house structure, and then she ripped off the post-it notes and broke through, and we finally saw her. And this was very good. You know, it's a very toe-tapping, gentle ditty, very nice. 61 points, 20th place. Clearly on the night it just didn't really connect with people too much. Taking a look here, 16th with the juries, 17th with the public, but something tells me that if the 2022 contest was rerun now, this would finish a hell of a lot higher. Nice to see them back in the final as well. Italy, the host country, Brividi, Mahmoud and Blanco, 268 points, 6th place. I actually went off this song just before the 2022 contest got underway, and I've sort of gone off this song further since. It's fine, it's a really lovely, quite emotionally charged track, but for some reason it just left me feeling a bit cold. The performance as well, I don't know, Mahmoud was all serious, and then in the background you've got Blanco at a silent rave. I'm not sure what that was all about. But yeah, I mean, what else can I really say about this? It was a solid host nation entry, always likely to do quite well. He was, or they both were, sorry, 7th with the juries and 8th with the public. You can expect a similar result this year for Marco Mengoni. Then we have Chanel for Spain, Slow Mo. And this was a real watershed moment for Spain at the contest. Years of mediocrity, and then this came along. And it wasn't even the Spanish public's favourite, but they soon changed their tune, let me tell you. This finished 3rd with 459 points. What a result. Started off very well in the voting as well. The juries were on board with this too. It was pure sex appeal. She just nailed it. She looked like a completely seasoned performer. This was her first ever single, I believe. And she was on that stage performing like she'd been doing it for years. It had a touch of the Jennifer Lopez about it, I guess. Yes, like I said, she was clearly ramping up the sex appeal, but it worked. That's the thing, it worked. And the song, okay, maybe nothing particularly original or special, but she just sold the hell out of it. And she had a huge cheer at the end, arguably a bigger cheer than for Italy, the host nation just before her. Taking a look at the split results, she was 3rd behind Moldova. Okay, with the public, and 3rd with the juries. Very impressive. What a great result. And a song that I've always liked. Absolutely. She took what she had at Benidorm Fest and elevated it. And that's what you've got to do. You take what you've already got, if you've been in the national final, and you ramp it up to 11. If you don't, it could be curtains. Then we have the Netherlands. Mwah, 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 mwah. This was peak Netherlands at Eurovision, ladies and gentlemen. Steen with De Diepte in Dutch. 171 points, 11th place. Not bad. This is just the sort of song that I listen to, or would listen to, and I'd be thinking, wow, the public will be bored to tears by this. They're not going to give it much love at all, but the juries will. And that's sort of what happened on the night. The public had the Netherlands down in 14th place. Okay, fair enough. But when you consider that the public gave Steen 42 and Moldova 239, oh, Lord above. Anyway, 8th with the juries, not too bad. This was so simply done, but it was very effective. The lights that rose up and streaked across the arena. She was dressed very casually with her midriff exposed. Lovely vocals, the long blonde hair. Everything was working really nicely. Maybe it could have been a little bit more impactful. Maybe there could have been a little bit more colour to this. But on the whole, a job well done. This was so good. I absolutely loved it from the first time I heard it. Absolutely fantastic. Let's leave Ukraine. Let's talk about Germany. There's not much to say here. It was a bit of a snooze fest. Hate to say it, but it was. This was Malik Harris. He sounded alright. A little bit of rap in this song. Rock stars. Not really a rock song at all. 6 points, 25th place. Is anybody surprised by this? Nope. He was last with nothing from the juries and 20th with 6 points from the public, which is one more than the Czech Republic. Dear, dear me. This was staged in a super casual manner, almost as if we were in his living room. There was a carpet and a sofa, I think. Can't quite recall. It was all very basic. And when you come into Eurovision expected to probably finish last, that's not great. So you need to deliver in an incredible fashion to do any good. This didn't deliver in an incredible fashion. It was as bland as people thought it was going to be, and as such, Germany really struggled. A real shame. I sound very harsh, but come on, you've got to bring it, and this didn't. As for Lithuania, Song 14, Monica Liu, didn't really like it at the time, like it a lot more now. Still not one of my big favourites. A very slinky, quite sensual number. Monica Liu with Sentimente. Quite old-fashioned, but not in a bad way. It sort of reminded me of The Great Gatsby for some reason. You know, this sort of old-school, classy vibe to it. Finished in 14th place, not bad at all. 128 points, 11th with the public, and 18th with the jurors. I thought it might have been the other way around, but there we are. Don't have much else to say about it. A nice song, but not one I'm going back to that often. Then we have Azerbaijan. Oh boy! Oh dear me. Nadir Rustamli. Okay. Sang really well. What a great voice. The song... Oh boy. Oh boy. I sound really, really rude and I apologise, but Jesus wept. This was not doing anything for me. Fade to Black, and I really was fading to black. This finished in 16th place with 106 points. Finished last with nothing in the second semi-final, but still went through. What were those juries listening to? I mean, okay, it's more of a jury bait type song. And he had the bleachers on stage, and it was all very dramatic, and it built up nicely. But this still didn't leave much of an impression on me, or clearly a lot of other viewers as well. This finished 23rd with 3 points from the public, but 10th with the juries. That's a real lopsided result there. I'm not going to say it's baffling, but I'm not really sure what there was about this song, apart from a great vocal display. Oh dear me, I didn't really like it the first time I heard it, and I'm still not really on board with it now. It is what it is. Belgium. Oh my god, it doesn't get any better. How the flaming bejesus did this song make the final? Oh dear me, Jérémy Machiese with Miss You. 64 points, 19th place. Honestly, this was such a fat disappointment. I wasn't impressed with this at all. He was going for a sort of... how do I describe this? I don't really know how to describe it. It was such a bland showing, ladies and gentlemen. The song, really flat, quite R&B in style, a little bit soulful. Okay, he sounded good as well, but the song, he needed a better song. It's as simple as that. Come on now, this just wasn't competitive enough. How this went through, I still don't really know. I sound really harsh, apologies again. This finished with 5 points, 21st place from the public, and 13th. Above Poland, Estonia, Armenia, Czech Republic. Oh, what the hell is that all about? With the juries, yeah. And in the end, a sort of mid-table result. Yeah, I don't really get it, because there wasn't really anything about this song to make it really pop out from the field. Not at all. I just thought it was really very forgettable. And then we had Greece. This was a slice of fried gold, ladies and gentlemen. This was Amanda Georgiadi Tenfjord with Die together. Like with the Netherlands, this was so good. Oh, yeah. Oh, God, this was good stuff. 215 points, 8th place. I thought this was going to challenge for the win. I made a video last year why Greece should win Eurovision 2022 because I really thought she was in with a good shot. And ultimately she came up short. But it started off sort of a cappella, and then we had that melting chairs effect as she was in that white dress. And it was so sort of true and authentic. It didn't feel forced. It didn't feel over the top. Even when it was more emphatic in the final third, it didn't feel too over the top at all. This was just an absolutely stellar performance in my opinion. 12th place with the public. 57, and Moldova got 239. Oh, what the hell is that about? Anyway, 6th place with the juries. At least they knew what the hell was going on. 8th place in the end, justified. Deserved a bit more. Music video was good. Studio version good. Live performance good. She's great. Let's move on. Iceland did very well to qualify. Lovely to have a bit of Icelandic folk in the final, but it was always likely to struggle. Með hækkandi sól, beautiful lyrics as well if you translate them. This was Sister, and it was a real family affair. It reminded me a bit of First Aid Kit, something like that. Really good stuff. Have I gone back to it? Not really. It's a very slow tune, and it was right before Moldova, so you have to say it was sort of dead and buried when we knew the grand final running order that was. 23rd with the juries, and 18th with the public. Low marks in the end, as expected. Hopefully Iceland will do a bit better this year. We will soon find out. Then we have Moldova. Well, when this song was released, people thought, oh, it's fun, but it's silly. It's not going to do that good. And then before you knew it, everybody was having a great big dance in Turin, and elsewhere, I'm sure, thinking about catching a train from Chisinau to Bucharest. Oh man, they just delivered, didn't they? They got everybody swept up into a frenzy. The performance was colourful, it was fun. If they had had a train on stage as well, this would have done even better. This finished 7th with 253 points. I don't know what it is about Moldova, but when it comes to Eurovision, it's like they take the national final performance and throw it in a blender, and when it comes out, it is this gleaming machine, and they just suddenly draw in points from all corners of Europe. Absolutely extraordinary. This was 2nd with the public. That is very generous. That is very generous. Dear, dear me, this was not the second best song of the year. Anyway, they were 20th with the juries. So again, very, very lopsided. Big difference in opinion here. I don't mind it, but also it's a tad irritating because it's really all about the chorus. And as much as I liked it on the night and did expect it to do well, yeah, I'm looking back at it now and thinking that was a very generous mark from the public. But a sign that a really jaunty, almost sort of throwaway tune, perhaps, can do the business at the ESC. Then we have Sweden, my personal winner. Ah, this was gold. When the lineup for Melfest came out, like a lot of other people, you gravitate towards the names that you know, the recognisable figures. Cornelia Jacobs flew under the radar for a bit. She was in the first Melfest heat. I was thinking, oh yeah, Malu Pritz, this is going to be great. She finished last. This went through instead. And it just grew on me straight away, and it did for a lot of other people as well. She had been in Melfest before, let's not forget. She looked good and sounded good. This was such a heartfelt, sort of tugging on the heartstrings tune. Absolutely fantastic. She went to Eurovision. It was a very similar live performance there. Sort of pyro, flashing lights. This was great. Absolutely fantastic. The juries were always going to absolutely wet themselves with excitement over this. That's exactly what happened. She finished 4th in the end. 438 points. 2nd with the juries. Not that far behind the UK, looking at this. And 6th with the public. Not too bad at all. Yeah, well deserved. Maybe should have challenged a little harder for the win. I really thought this was a very serious contender for victory. But in the end, 4th place, about right. She's great. Will she come back to Eurovision? I doubt it. But certainly a lot of people are fans of Cornelia these days, that's for sure. Then we have Australia. Well, this was sort of West End musical. Stairs either side of Sheldon Riley. Great singer again, but the song, bit of a letdown. This was not the same. 125 points, 15th place. About right, it has to be said. Smoke machine, the veil over his face. Very, very theatrical in terms of its execution. Never really loved this song, got to be honest with you. It's actually my last place of the grand final last year, taking into consideration my personal qualifiers and all of that jazz. This is my last place of the final, I believe. I just went off it very, very quickly, but I was never really with it, if you see what I mean anyway. Taking a look at the split results, another poor result from the public for Australia. 2 measly points, 24th place. Australia have a problem, a bit like Malta, when it comes to gaining public support. This year, Voyager should do very well, but should we really be that surprised if they don't do well? Because Australia seemingly cannot get much public support. Even Kate Miller-Heidke flopped a little bit with the public, you have to say. But anyway, he was 9th with the juries, and that really helped his cause. Don't really have much else to say about it. I sort of forgot it as soon as it was over. Then we have Sam Ryder. You can't avoid this man. He's everywhere. He's in YouTube adverts. He's on television. He's going around flashing the peace sign at everybody. Really likeable guy. My brother finds him incredibly irritating, but there we are. This was Spaceman. 2nd place, 466 points. This was so good because it shut up a lot of the media. Oh, we'll never win again. We'll never challenge for the win again. Everybody in Europe hates us. European Union. Brexit means Brexit. Just shite coming out of the mouths of so many journalists in the UK, which I'm afraid to say is still the case regarding May Muller a little bit this year. But this was, like with Spain, a watershed moment for the UK. All you've got to do is send a half-decent song and a half-decent singer to do the business. He delivered. The Brian May guitar solo, the structure on stage, it was just epic. Deliver the goods. And he did. And it was a real job well done. This was the jury winner, Lord above. 5th with the public, Lord above. I mean, unprecedented for the UK in these times. This year, we will not do as well. It's as simple as that. But last year, it's the benchmark now. It's the blueprint for the rest of this decade and moving forwards as well for the UK Eurovision. We will look back on this performance and we will say, right, if we did it once, we can do it again. We can have this sort of epic staging and really make an impact. This was flying under the radar a little bit. It was only really about a fortnight before the contest took place, this time last year, when people started saying, actually, you know what, the UK are coming for a really, really good result this year, and that's exactly what happened. Plus, he was a sensational vocalist. Then we have Poland. This was pretty good. The staging, fine. Little bit forgettable. Not really a fan of the outfits, although he was in a pretty crisp suit. And we had those quite naff on-screen shaking thunderstorm effects. You know what I'm on about. It didn't really look that impressive. It looked fairly cheap. But anyway, great falsetto here. 151 points, 12th place. Not bad. One of Poland's best results for years. This was 9th with the public and 14th, maybe a bit disappointing, below Belgium and Switzerland and Azerbaijan. Oh, what man. 46 points with the juries. Fair enough. Don't really have much else to say about this. I don't like it quite as much as I did this time last year, but it's not a bad song. Then we have Serbia. This has grown on me like you wouldn't believe. Still not one of my big favourites, but I like it so much more than I did this time last year. Constractor, obviously very, very different. Very bizarre, but it just struck a chord with a lot of people because of how unusual it was. Sitting there washing her hands, and then you've got the woman waving the towel above her head. And it was very unusual. There's no other way to describe it, really. In Corpore Sano, 312 points, 5th place. I wonder if Meghan Markle has listened to this song. She loves the attention, so she probably has. This finished in 11th place with the juries, so not too bad. 4th, not that far away from Spain, it must be said, just a few points. 4th with the public, very, very good. And it was a stellar performance. Nothing else to say about it. Sounded good, looked good. I don't think Serbia will be doing as well this year, but Luke Black will be in the final, I'm sure. Yeah, this was great. This was great. It really was. I'm not even going to sit here and pretend. I was not really on board with this at all, but now this is a song that I can listen to and I can watch the live performance and say, you know what, this is really, really good. So if I have a biggest grower from 2022, it's probably Serbia. And then we have Estonia, really good show closer, great singer, this sort of country and western vibe, very Red Dead Redemption. This was Stefan with Hope, 13th place, 141 points. Yep, solid stuff, lovely job. 15th with the juries, deserved a bit more there. 10th with the public, not too shabby at all. And although it was fairly energetic, yeah, maybe he would have benefited from something else happening on stage. Not what he had at Eesti Laul, that wasn't quite working. But if he had something else on stage with him in Turin, this maybe would have done a little bit better. But what that thing would have been or could have been, I have no idea. Anyway, that leaves Ukraine, and I'm going to be very brief here because this video is nearly an hour long. Lord above. Ukraine, won by a mile. Absolute mile. Absolute mile, ladies and gentlemen. Should never have happened. The result should have been a lot closer. But irrespective of the situation in Eastern Europe, this song probably would have won anyway, let's be honest. Kalush Orchestra did a very good job. Stefania is a catchy song. This sort of blend of traditional sounds and hip-hop. It worked wonders. People were really on board with this. 631 points. Absolutely sensational. And I don't know. I mean, this is very middle of the road for me, by which I mean it's not one of my big favourites, nor is it a song that I really don't enjoy at all. It is absolutely in the middle of my personal ranking of the 2022 songs. My opinion on it hasn't really changed much. They're going to be there in Liverpool, which of course is absolutely right. This topped the public vote by a mile, absolute mile, and they were 4th with the juries. I really have nothing else to say about this. Was it a deserved winner? We could sit here and argue about that till kingdom come. But Ukraine know what they're doing at Eurovision, and this was something fresh, something different, something catchy, something memorable, and it was always going to do quite well. It's as simple as that. It was always going to do well. Should it have won by that big a margin? No, it should not have done. You have to say there was a lot of sympathy thrown their way. There's no doubt about it. Let's not beat around the bush. A ton of sympathy votes went their way. No doubt about it. But probably would have won anyway. So there we are. What I will be absolutely fuming about this year, I'm not even going to sit here and pretend, ladies and gentlemen, Tvorci, I've got no problem with them or the song. But if that song gets 380 points from the public, I will be sitting there, or rather standing there, on the pier head in Liverpool in a few weeks' time thinking, what the actual blazes have I just seen? Because come on now. Come on now. I don't know. You've got to vote for the best song. Heart of Steel isn't really doing the business for me, and I've not seen anybody else say that it's probably going to win. I'm going off on a big tangent here now. I sound super, super harsh, so I think it's best if I shut up. Anyway, Kalush Orchestra, you know what? They did a really, really great job. And I've always not minded the song. I've just never really loved it. But it is what it is. Anyway, I'm going to shut up now. What a long video. Let me know your thoughts on last year's contest. And now we can look forwards once again to the 2023 edition in Liverpool. Whatever it is, whatever you want to let me know about this year's songs, last year's songs, feel free to leave a comment. And until next time, take care of yourselves. Stay safe. And I'm going to watch... Well, there's a break in snooker. What a surprise. I'm going to have a cup of tea as well. Take care of yourselves and stay safe. Bye for now.